We begin this hour with a developing story of a major IT outage rippling across the world with major consequences. At last count, more than 30 countries across the world have been affected. This all began several hours ago when American Airlines announced it had issued a top order grounding planes. Since then, the problem has rapidly spread. The cyber outage has been linked to an issue at global cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike. According to an alert sent by the company to clients, its Falcon sensor software is causing Microsoft Windows to crash and display a so-called blue screen of death. Microsoft has since confirmed it's working to remedy the problem. In the meantime, airports from India to the US and across Europe are being badly hit, with major airlines forced to ground their flights. Global banking and telecommunication have not been spared. It's even affected supermarkets. Randolph Noble has been following this crisis as it spread over the past few hours. He's here with me in studio. So, Randall, we've just got a statement from the CEO of CrowdStrike. What's he said about this?
That's right. The CEO of CrowdStrike basically saying that they're working on the problem, that they're issued workaround instructions for users to fix this blue screen error, which is, as we've mentioned, is linked with Microsoft Word, Microsoft 365 applications, PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, all of these applications that are widely used across the world, and essentially saying that they're actively working, fully mobilized, but that this is not any kind of, any kind of cyber attack. This is not any kind of security attack. Now, it should be noted that while we continue to see the ramifications of this problem across the world, and it's worth noting that while airports in Paris have not been affected, or I should say flights into Paris have not been affected, we know, of course, that in a week's time, the Olympic Games get underway with a number of athletes arriving ahead of those games. So Air France basically saying that some of its operations have been disrupted. We've seen these kinds of operations at check-in counters and the like, but that flights in the air have essentially not been affected.
Randolph, this is affecting millions of people, and of course there must be a lot of frustration and anger, especially at places like airports. Are we hearing from any of those people? I've seen a few things online, people having to wait sometimes 3 hours just to board their flights.
Just to give you a scope of the problem, American Airlines, which is obviously pointed to CrowdStrike's technology, its update, its app update, as the source of this problem. That airline alone serves 500,000 people. It's high season in a number of places around the world. In fact, the UK was expecting its busiest travel day today since October of 2019. So if we look at how long this is going to, the ripple effects, the knock-on effects, the domino effects of this, it's going to be extremely impactful with respect to the ramifications of this, both in terms of air travel and in terms of businesses operating across the world.
Okay, Randolph Noble, thank you so much for that update. Now, for more on the global impact, standing by for us is Nadeem Baba in London, Smita Sharma in New Delhi, Ana Maria Marquez is in Madrid. But first, we're going to start with Annette Lee, and she joins us from Sydney. Annette, Australia was one of the first countries affected. What happened and how are things looking now?
Well, it was around about 3 o'clock our time here in Sydney. Suddenly we noticed that things like banking apps weren't working. And we certainly couldn't get onto certain apps. And then the next thing, the local radio, ABC, was off. And I had to go into a meeting. And I was then there for about an hour and a half. When I came out, nothing was working. It was really quite surreal. The federal government called an emergency meeting of key stakeholders, and that finished about half an hour ago. And they've mainly said we have to be vigilant, even though some things are coming back online. It's still very unstable. We all need to be vigilant because hackers will be watching what's happening at the moment.
Yes, this is the main concern, isn't it? That so many people are worried about what's going to happen to their personal data. You mentioned banking apps not being able to work, and I'm sure many people can attest. As soon as you can't log onto your banking app, there's almost an immediate panic. What are people there saying?
Well, I was near a local supermarket. Everybody seemed quite calm. I think sometimes it happens a little bit too often. But certainly as the news has got out and people are actually realizing this may not be fixed quite as quickly as they want. This is a busy weekend. It's the end of the school holidays. People are trying to travel. People are trying to get things ready for the school term next year. If this goes on for more than 24 hours, it could cause real problems.
Netli, thank you for that update. Live to us there from Sydney, Australia. Let's take you now to London to find out how this outage has affected the United Kingdom. Nadim Baba joins me now. And Nadim, we were just hearing there from Annette saying how busy this time of the year is in Australia, but the same in the UK. Many people going away for summer holidays, and this has affected everything from travel to the London Stock Exchange.
You're absolutely right. This is a very busy day for people trying to get to different parts of the country. This Friday, many schools are actually ending their terms and families starting to go on holiday. Of course, many of them will be taking flights, and we were just hearing about some airlines which have been affected. Here in the UK, there has been major disruption, mainly to airlines which use self-check-in terminals at airports. So, for example, Ryanair, they've said that they have experienced disruption across the network because of this third-party outage. They've advised passengers to use the app in the first instance and then try to check at the airport. There have been reports around the UK at airport terminals which use the company's Swissport for handling, that there have been major delayed, but we're not hearing of major cancellations. There have been cancellations and flight disruptions, though. KLM on Friday morning said that the Dutch airline, said that it had to largely suspend flights because handling had been made impossible. Well, back here in the UK, train companies have had their IT systems severely affected, but for the time being, it hasn't led to people not being able to travel. At this major terminal, King's Cross, there are trains to northern England and further north to Scotland, and most of them are actually leaving on time or around the scheduled departure time. But when you get to the platform, there's no specific information. So that seems to be the main problem, just in terms of when people get to the station, announcements and information at the actual platform for departure. But things are actually moving. On the airlines, as I was saying, it's a more chaotic situation. And if this carries on, yes, it will create a lot of heartbreak because many people will have booked holidays. People calling their operators as well will be putting extra pressure on those companies, and perhaps those systems will go down. So the sooner this can be resolved for the travel industry, the better. But it's also affecting health services. Family doctors, known as GPs here in Britain, are saying that their access to patients' records has been affected, and pharmacies are having trouble accessing prescriptions put out by those doctors, as well as medical deliveries. So it really could impact people's real lives.
Yeah, and some of those effects are still to be seen. Nadim Baba in London, outside King's Cross Station there. Thank you so much. Well, let's take you now to New Delhi to speak to Smita Sharma. And Smita, as we've been hearing, it's travel that's been mainly affected, no different in India. I've even seen social media users showing their manual tickets to actually board their flights.
Yes, it's kind of a deja vu back to the old days feeling in the airports where we saw long queuing up of passengers happen, people having to wait for a couple of hours. And that's when a lot of the private air carriers, including the likes of Indigo, which has a monopoly across several sectors, or Akasa, SpiceJet, Vistara, they switched back to the manual boarding pass systems. Several flights were also, in fact, cancelled or rescheduled. But the chaos definitely was way more in the airport than in several other sectors. So unlike in the other parts of the world where we have seen a lot of stock markets also getting impacted, the National Stock Exchange is functioning smoothly out here in India. We have not seen really much impact on the railways or the other public transport modes. And India had its own kind of an impact, on the biggest public health sector hospital, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, some months ago. So there were some lessons learned. So at the moment, it's really the airlines which seem to have been the worst impacted here.
Okay, Smita Sharma, thank you for that update from New Delhi. Let's take you to Spain's capital, Madrid. Ana Maria Marquez joins me now. And Ana, this really couldn't have come at a worse time. Many Spaniards are flying to their summer holiday destinations, but this outage severely impacting them.
Yeah, and not only Spanish people is traveling abroad or to other destinations in Spain, but also we are receiving thousands of travelers from other countries around the world. The good news is that the Spanish Airport Authority, AENA, reported some minutes ago that they are recovering some of their systems, but the glitch is still affecting information points and especially the check-in process. And this is the origin of the delays. Because many of such processes are being completed manually, as in India or in London. So AENA is gradually overcoming the impact of this technical outage, and flights have not been cancelled. But we are seeing long queues in the airports, especially in Madrid and Barcelona, and important delays of somewhat 40 minutes to even 2 hours on average. Airlines are requesting their customers to get to the airports at least 3 hours before their trip. As I said, all airports in Spain are operating at a very slower pace. Of course, for example, in order to embark the airplanes, the companies are using manual lists. So this is delaying all the processes within the airports.
Okay, people just having to be patient and hopefully reaching their final destinations. Ana Maria Marquez in Spain, thank you so much. Let's bring you some analysis now with Chris Windley. He's the chairman of the Cybersecurity Association and joins me from Birmingham in the UK. Chris, thanks for taking out the time. Firstly, your reaction to this massive outage. It seems like it's something that hasn't been this big or has rather happened so quickly in such a short space of time.
Yeah, well, I think that, obviously we need to be prepared for these sorts of things and hopefully this will, raise the awareness in people so that we can get more discussion going on about this and we can look at solutions. As you probably know, in the UK, King Charles recently was talking about the Labour Party's intentions, and there has been a bill, that's been passing through Parliament to make MSPs and software as a service companies critical national infrastructure. But of course, that has not happened, because of the business and, cost and everything else implications of that. But we need to actually address this.
Well, what are some of those solutions other than what you've just said? Because this seems like something that could take quite a long time. And whereas we could see another outage like this happen in the future before some of those solutions come into effect.
Yeah, so just to let you know, I'm trying to get information from our Security Operations Centre at the minute on this. So just an update here. We've actually just been posting how to fix the CrowdStrike Falcon issue, which is crashing the Windows PCs. So it appears to be at the minute, from what I'm being told from my technical people, it appears to be not a cyber attack, but a technical update issue is the latest information that I've got from that. So maybe not in this case actually a cyber attack, but of course, CrowdStrike has been known as for helping in Ukraine. They were one of the companies that helped Ukraine, and therefore they are a target, as are all MSPs and software as a service companies. This is a known tactic. Hack once, affect many. If you can hack into an MSP or a software as a service company, you've got a major win. So we've really got to do something to protect, and we've got to do this really urgently. We've got to do something to protect the MSPs and the software as a service companies urgently.
When you use the word hack, I think for so many, especially those of us not in the IT industry, it's immediate panic, especially when it comes to your personal information, when it comes to your banking details. And right now, this is not just limited to one country. This is being seen everywhere. When we look at airports, you give them all your information, your passport details, your very personal information. With this company saying that it is a technical update issue, how long does that take to actually resolve? Because, you know, this could take 2 hours, they have it fixed, but of course, this is going to take much longer considering all the aftermath of it.
Well, I mean, all I'm going to say to you that from the information that I'm seeing at the minute, right, hopefully this would not take that long, right? So it's basically a faulty register in the latest update of the Falcon sensor. This is an agent. I'm sorry, I'm just reading from my CTO's information here. This is an agent that the CrowdStrike claims blocks your attacks on your systems while capturing and recording activity as it happens to detect threats fast. So this will be a software update from what I'm seeing at the minute. And I don't think that it will take a long time. I don't want to define what a long time or a short time is.
Of course, I think many people hoping it won't take a long time, as you say there, Chris. What does this now do, though, for consumer trust in CrowdStrike? You say that they're a company that has helped Ukraine, for example. Do they work solely with very big companies, or are we seeing smaller and medium-sized enterprises also affected here?
Yeah, well, if we go back to the pandemic, right, of course, during the pandemic period, all of the what I call endpoint protection companies and that experienced massive growth. Because obviously, you know, endpoint protection means that essentially what you're doing is you're putting an agent, a software agent, right, on your laptop or on your desktop, right? And of course, during the pandemic, nearly everybody was working from home, or a very large percentage of people were working from home, weren't they, right? During this period, the endpoint protection companies, you know, their valuations, their share prices skyrocketed. You know, like, for example, SentinelOne's went from something like $1 billion to 10 billion, if you like, during the course of the pandemic, right? This didn't, you know, all endpoint protection companies and that didn't experience the same thing, but some of the top ones did. So like, you know, CrowdStrike, Qualys, SentinelOne, or a lot of those and that, they experienced massive growth, and their software sensors, if you like, were installed on millions of computers worldwide.
Yeah, this is certainly going to be very interesting in the coming hours and the coming days to see how all of this unfolds. Chris Windley, thank you so much for your expertise. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome. Have a good day.